Hello and welcome to Lesson 6 of National 5 Computing Science Database Design and Development. Today you're learning about entity relationship diagrams and how to create them. As you know, tables in a database can be related to each other, and there are different types of relationships that these tables can have. For example, a mother can have many children, but a child can only have one biological mother. This is known as a one-to-many relationship, where a mother can have many children, but a child can only have one biological mother. Another example, a school only has one head teacher, and a head teacher only works in one school. I know there are some head teachers that have multiple schools, but traditionally, it's a one-to-one relationship. And a final example, a pupil can have many teachers, and a teacher can have many pupils, especially at secondary school. This is known as a many-to-many relationship. One thing to note is that you'll probably never ever come across a many-to-many relationship in a database. In order to easily and visually describe the type of relationship between tables, we use what's called an ER diagram, Entity Relationship Diagrams. Entity is another word for a table, so it's the relationship between the two tables. Here you can see three relationships, three types of relationship. As you can see from these three diagrams, the one side is indicated by a straight line, and the many side is indicated by the sort of crow's feet, that trident sort of shape. Here we can see a mother can have many children, but a child can only have one mother, biologically speaking that is. With the head teacher in the school, it's one head teacher to one school. And with the subject teacher to pupils, there are many teachers to many pupils to many teachers, many to many. There are lots of different ways of depicting these types of relationships. You can see in the top left, we've got arrows, where the arrowhead indicates the many. Below that, you've got the crow's feet that you've already seen. That's my personal favourite. On the top right, we've got this sort of staff, a straight line. The straight line indicates the many. And on the bottom right, we've got just numbers and letters to indicate 1 means 1, M means many, and N also means many, but only if there's already an M there. It's a bit odd. I like to think of it as many to numerous. You choose the one that you prefer and stick with it, because in an exam you will be marked correctly no matter which version you use, as long as you correctly depict the one in the many sides. So give it a go. Try these relationships. I'll give you a couple of seconds to pause the video. Hopefully you pause the video. Here are the answers, or what I think the answers are. A house to an owner. Many people can own a house, and a house can be owned by many people. A teacher can teach many pupils. A pupil can be taught by many teachers. That's many to many. A teacher can work in one school, but a school can have many teachers. I know that technically teachers can work in multiple schools, but usually it's a one-to-many relationship. A school to head teacher, we've seen this before, that's a one-to-one. One school has one head teacher, a head teacher works in one school. Driver and car. A car can only be driven by one person at a time. I don't know if there are like tandem cars, but I wouldn't want to drive one of those. So this is a one-to-one relationship. And finally, a customer can take part in many sales, but when something is sold, that sale item or that sale instance, the selling of that item only applies to one customer. Hopefully that makes sense. That's one to many. Now we've seen the entities, we've seen the relationships. The entities are the tables, and the relationship is that one to many that you see on screen here. But there are more things to add to an entity relationship diagram. The SQA will tell you what you need to include, or rather they'll tell you what not to include, if anything. So let's take a look at the extra things. First of all, this is called the name of the relationship, or the relationship name. This is where you just put a small description of what the relationship is in between the two entities. In this case, a parent is a parent of a child. Normally, the description would go from the one entity to the many entity. So in this case, one parent to many children. One parent is a parent of many children. That's going from the one to the many. But it can go from the many to the one. But sometimes it doesn't make that much sense. In this case, it would be a child is a child of a parent, or many children can be a child of a parent. I prefer to go to the one to the many, but whatever makes the most sense. Sometimes you'll be asked to describe or give a name to a relationship between things that you don't really understand. As long as it sounds plausible, as long as it's a realistic description or name of the relationship. In this case, a parent is a parent of a child. Next up, we have the attributes. Attributes is another word for fields. So you have a bubble with a line connecting to the entity that field relates to. In this case, you would probably store more than just the forename, surname, and address of a parent or a child, but this is just an example. And finally, you would include the keys, the primary and the foreign keys. Here you can see that parent ID is the primary key for the parent entity. You know that because it's underlined. That indicates a primary key. The child also has an ID, child ID, and the child has a foreign key called parent ID. You'll notice that parent ID has an asterisk next to it in the child entity. That is because it is the primary key of the parent entity. So there you have it. That's all you need to know about ER diagrams. Hopefully you've understood everything, but if there's something you haven't understood, feel free to ask questions in the comments, and I'll see you next time.